do we have several concerns, which I could go into great detail, but I won't tonight. But I want to say that this has been absolutely a blessing because I got to know all my neighbors. I got to go out and literally talk to all of them, or a good majority of them. And I currently have a petition put together to vote no on the topic for over 200 people, and I'm not done yet. So the next time we meet, my goal is over 500 registered voters wanting to vote no on the topic of the rezoning. And I want you to meet my friends because a lot of us came today. So if you are from River's Edge, if you could please stand up. And if you're here from Currituck on the Sound, can you please stand up? And if you're a concerned citizen living at 2515 Tulse Creek Road, across the street from the freeway, also affected by the water, or you're a member of Currituck, if you could please stand up.
Got a few of them.
So the majority of the people that showed up today are all my friends, and I'm glad to call them my friends, and all of us are greatly, did I miss someone? No? Okay. We are greatly concerned about the rezoning. Next time we'll be even bigger, so just so you know. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you, well, hopefully maybe not seeing you again. Thank you.
All right, next up, Mr. James Dempsey. Good evening, sir.
Yes, James Dempsey at 210 Mariners Way. I, too, am here to speak concerning the proposal 2333. And I know you're going to hear a lot of discussion about drainage and traffic and the concerns, and I am certainly concerned as well. But what I would like to speak to quickly is ramifications of this approval. At the Planning Commission meeting that we went to, Jason Littoral from the Technical Review Committee recommended a denial of the rezoning, stating that it did not meet 5 of the 6 standards set forth in the 2040 Vision Plan. That plan states that the land use plan is assessment of what our community is today and a long-range outlook of what it should be in the future. It is an adopted policy document which commissioners, staff, and citizens use as a guide for making decisions about the physical growth and development of the county. It goes on to say, and I quote, "Public input and participation is a large part of the plan. I have no doubt that you will hear an earful of public input in opposition to this proposal. What my concern also is, if this thing is approved, if the rezoning is approved, you will set a precedent that cannot be undone and will open up floodgates for future developers to use. And it will effectively make the Technical Review Committee and the 2040 Vision Plan and their recommendations moot and toothless." Thank you.
Thanks, sir. All right, next up we have Mr. Mills Riddick.
Good evening. My name is Mills Riddick. I live at 109 Deerfield Lane in Idlet, and I am the president of the board of directors with Lower Currituck Volunteer Fire Department. Tonight I have with me my treasurer, Timmy Thomas, my secretary, Michelle Thomas, Timmy's wife, and my sergeant at arms, Eugene McLawhorn. My vice president, Chris Ayers, could not be here tonight. He is in Alaska at a family reunion. Imagine my shock when my wife looks at me Saturday night and says, "Have you seen the consent agenda?" I said, "No." "What about it?" "Grandy EMS station?" I said, "You're looking at it wrong." But she was right. $195,000. What a waste of money. I would like to think after the last verdict with the CCA and the possible talk of taxes growing up that this would be a joke. The bottom line is that ambulance has sat in that bay at Station 5 for decades. when it left, it was made, that decision was made by your former county manager. I have several phone calls recorded on my phone with him where he admitted it. We asked for a medic to be moved that night that was being disrespectful to the members of the fire department. And like I say, it's just ridiculous. We've made a couple of efforts to try and work this out. And of course, all I hear is that the fire department's in the wrong. Anybody with common sense knows it takes two to tango. We've addressed stuff before and gotten nowhere. I've talked to Owen, Kevin, Paul, Bob, Mike several times. I would like to think that even you as commissioners would understand that this is a waste of money. It's an old building, and there's no need to spend that money when there's a fire department sitting right there for it to go back to. Like I say, you're going to make the decision that you're going to want to make. That's up to y'all. But I will say this much. We have the community behind us on this. And I think you're going to start hearing from them based on what we're being told. So like I say, when it comes time to that, I ask that you not waste our tax money on it, and you make the decision you feel like you need to do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, next up we have Ken Norris. All right. All right. Good evening,
Good
sir.
evening. Pleasure to be here. My name is Ken Norris. I am a 100% disabled retiree from the United States Coast Guard. I'm a property owner in Currituck County for 20 years
Ken, could you
and
state
a
your name?
longtime registered voter.
Would you state your address, please, for the record?
123 Sound Shore Drive, Currituck on the Sound. I proudly served for 30 years in the aviation career, learning two things. Altitude is a good thing, and good order and discipline is vital to sustainability. After active duty, I have almost 20 years of experience with North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality administrative codes concerning the stewardship and the intent of these laws, gentlemen, ladies, gentlemen. I am certified ISO 14000 environmental management, and I built the system that the Coast Guard Aviation Logistics Center is using today. I know what I'm talking about. I am not stupid. Write that down. Environmental studies are conducted to evaluate positive and negative impacts on our environment. During minor rain events in Currituck on the Sound, we have a court, Signet Court. 2 inches of rain, it floods the ditches and the street. A major rain event, it leaches into Sound Shore and impacts many homes. This property backs up to the property where you're considering at some time in the future to rezone and allow a commercial entity to come in there and pave and concrete a wetland. A rezoning would eventually disrupt the controlled management, planned management by the Department of Environmental Quality, which used to be NC Diener when I played with them. Sustainability is all about you making decisions, not for today, but for the next decade. I was on the airport board here. We have a 2010, we had a 2050, you have a 2040 plan. You do that for a reason. Sustainability is about making quality decisions about our future. I would ask you to vote no, absolutely vote no on the rezoning of this property for a commercial entity over a wetland where 2 or maybe 3 communities rely on that watershed. I thank you for your time.
Next up, I have Anthony Lagrasso.
My apologies, I came from work.
Not a problem. Good evening.
Good
Give
evening.
me your name and address for the record, please, sir.
My name is Anthony Lagrasso, 110 Bayside Drive, River's Edge. Two concerns I have, I'm sure you've heard, traffic issues, exiting. This is obviously the rezoning 168 at Tulls Creek. Traffic entering Tulls Creek at that intersection. Again, I'm sure you've heard all the arguments, pro, con, whatever the case is, but that is a concern. And obviously the watershed that you've heard concerns of. I am a registered voter. I'm asking you to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, next up we have Mr. Stuart Ennis.
Good evening. Stuart Ennis. My office is at 113 Baxter Lane in Moyock. We're removing the application tonight for a future date. And the reason we're doing that is because we have a good project. We've got everything in line. We know what we want to do and how we want to do it. We're going to be good neighbors. It's going to be a good project. You all as commissioners know better than anyone in this county. We have heard nothing, but we want to get rid of residential zonings and we want to bring business. I hear it all the time. Bring us businesses, we're sick of rooftops. That's precisely what we're trying to do. It's zoned single family. I'm not sure how people can surmise that a home was going to produce more or less water than a business. And respectfully, and I appreciate everybody coming out tonight to speak against it, because it shows that they care about their community, they want to be here, be involved, and that's great. But respectfully to all of them, not a single one has told you that they're an engineer. Not one of them is a soil scientist. Not one of them is a DOT type engineer. We've hired all three. I've got a good project in line. And also I have something for you tonight, this evening, I'll pass to the clerk. You can take a look at it at your convenience. And you will see that it's not us causing a problem. It's actually a neighboring property. We would never do anything to impact Currituck negatively. We've been here since 1989. I hear people talk about that. We've been here since '89. We own other office space in the community. We're looking to bring something which is in desperate need. Regardless of the slanderous remarks that some people have made against me and my family, tonight that's being addressed and will be addressed accordingly. But tonight we're going to pull it, we're going to bring it back at a later time, having taken into consideration comments from the planning board and the planning staff. So we will have a much different, similar project, but much different to address all concerns and anything that, and be able to answer any and all questions going forward. So unless you have any questions for me at this time, I'm happy to pull it off the agenda for this evening, and I will see you all again, hopefully soon.
Okay. Did you want to, well, we're going to open this up. When we open up the agenda item, if you'll stick around for a few minutes, we'll talk to you about it at that time.
Sure, sounds good. May I pass this to?
Yes. Thanks, sir. All right, next up, Lene Wade. I apologize if I butchered your name.
No, you got it right in the end.
Okay.
Lene Wade, 102 Egret Cove. Most of us moved to Moyock, those of us who came down from the Hampton Roads area, for its quiet country lifestyle, the wildlife, the beauty of it. Especially if we chose to live near the intersection of Tulls Creek and the Currituck Highway, we trusted that the idyllic farms, farm stands, and quiet neighborhoods would remain. After all, the area was zoned for, and is zoned for single-family residential housing. While I'm sure that the developer stands to make a large profit on an inexpensive piece of land if the zoning is changed, those of us who live in the area do not want to see industrial development at an already crowded intersection. My neighbors and I are concerned about the change to a peaceful rural environment, including the wildlife, the wetlands, the runoff, all of that. We are committed to making our opinions known and are politically active registered voters. Please do not rezone this parcel. The current zoning plan preserves the rustic pastoral character of the land. Adhere to the zoning as it stands. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and last this evening, I have Jeff Smith signed up. sir.
My name is Jeff Smith. I live at 161 Mariners Way in Moyock. I attended the planning board meeting and I did not speak, but I listened. And at that meeting, the petitioner asked for approval and said that he would do the stormwater engineering after approval. Similar to tonight, he stated that community residents expressed concerns, but they're not engineers. Well, I'm an engineer. And as much as we'd like to be right, as an engineer, as much as we'd like to be right all of the time, we are not. And if we were, there would never be recalls and required redesigns. And the homeowners surrounding this property can't afford for the engineers not to be correct the first time on moving water away from our properties. All of our homes are on septic systems, and standing water on our properties would not only be a nuisance, attract pests, but also cause septic system failures. The economic impact could be I estimate over $100 million if they're wrong, to all the communities that are around there if our properties become very much devalued or worthless. I ask that the risk not be taken by approving a plan which is not in conformity with the land use plan. 3 of the 4 necessary criteria for approval are not being met. If they're wrong, it could endanger the public health or safety. You got to get it right the first time. Not injure the value of adjoining or abutting lands and be in harmony with the area which it is located. And as has already been stated, it's not in conformity with the land use plan. And I also, if anybody's been following, property insurers are pulling out. And one of the things, and you all can research this, one of the things they're looking at is governments changing building codes and variants and causing risk. So if they feel that there's risk, they're going to pull out of doing property insurance before the first event happens, because that's what they're in business to do. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, sir. All right, that was the last person I had signed up this evening. I noticed a couple people came in late. Is there anyone that would like to speak that has not signed up? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name's Ann Pitts. I live at 102 Blue Heron Cove in River's Edge. And I have sent an email over to planning talking about the reasons that we are against this rezoning. But one of the things I just wanted to bring up was that he mentioned that we have no soil scientists to do any studies. And I'd like to know, how do you go about doing that on private property?
Well,
I'd be happy to
we
look into it, because I do have a soil scientist who I contacted about it. He said just by looking at it, it looks like jurisdictional. I contacted the Army Corps of Engineers, and he said that he wasn't able to give me any information. So what do we do as private citizens? How do we even address this? I'm confused on how to even go about it the right way.
Well, we normally don't engage people with public comment, but since we have such an attentive audience, I think tonight would be a good time to do that. Ultimately, when we get into quasi-judicial or public hearings, they're kind of 2 different things, but in a quasi-judicial, you can establish standing and come in as a party to that hearing. This is not what's going to happen with this. This is a public hearing. But you can hire an attorney to represent you, which would ultimately be the best thing to do. You can hire your own soil people to do analysis. They're going to have engineers that do it.
Well, I asked him, because I asked the soil scientist if we could hire him to do it, but you can't do it on private property.
Well, you can't, right, and they're not going to go on your property. So any project that comes through, this project in particular, since we're talking about it, when they come in, they're just going to ask for a change. And Mr. Ennis was correct. They're not going to spend a bunch of money to do the engineering until they get approval to actually do the project. At that time, though, they will do that engineering, and they have to hold their water on their property and metered out slowly over time so that they do not affect their neighbors downstream. We have worked very long and hard in this county to change our stormwater manual to affect those kind of changes because we have seen exactly what you guys are talking about tonight, those very things that a neighboring property could be flooding this property over here. We've seen a neighborhood go in and they didn't do upstream analysis and they changed the water flow and it affected the neighbor to the side where the water was formerly sheeting across their property. So we have taken a lot of steps at a county level to help deal with that. So ultimately, though, you know, getting together and doing exactly what you guys have done this evening is a very formidable way to change the Board of Commissioners' minds.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Thank you for coming out. All right, is there anyone else this evening? Yes, sir. We're going to cut this off at some point because it's repetitive, and we understand that everyone here doesn't want it.
It's unrelated to
Okay,
River's
cool.
Edge.
Who are you guys?
Chris Lyle and Teresa Denham. We live at 122 Nautical Lane, Currituck Landing. We were actually coming to ask y'all to leave the golf cart amendment where it is. It affects a lot of neighborhoods, and the vagueness of the way it's written it covers the whole county, including over in Corolla. In our neighborhood, we currently use a golf cart to ride down to our dock to the boat. Super convenient. And that would make it a criminal offense based on this. It turns it into a fine along with a misdemeanor. We understand that driving down Pudding Ridge Road or Tulse Creek, the law would apply. However, in a lot of the neighborhoods, it would affect a lot of citizens that aren't looking to break the law.
Can I address it?
We'll have that at a topic.
That's it. Can I address that? Like, if you live in a neighborhood, and we'll use Tolls Bay. If it's a 35 mile per hour speed limit zone, if the occupant driving the golf cart is 16 years of age, they can drive in a 35 mile per hour and below. So, like in your neighborhood, you live in Currituck Land, and I think the speed limit is 25 miles per hour. So if they're 16 or older, you could drive a golf cart in Currituck. It would not affect you.
We misread it wrong because the way it's stated, it was a blanket.
It's wordy.
Yeah, and that's why we were asking that it would be tabled so that it could be properly worded.
Because it's like, it doesn't mention street legal, it doesn't mention.
And it also says it repeals all other rules.
It's mainly where we get a lot of complaints in Corolla about golf carts and people driving golf carts. It's just like, or if you have somebody driving a golf cart in a neighborhood, we had it happen in River's Edge 2 nights ago. The kid was not 16 years of age. So he was told to take the cart home, blah, blah, blah. He wasn't supposed to be in there. I dealt with that 2 nights ago. So it's something, but like we said, it is kind of wordy, but like it wouldn't affect you as long as that person's 16 of age and it's a 35 mile per hour or under, like Carolina Club, golf cart communities, Eagle Creek, anywhere in Corolla.
Ours isn't a golf course community.
Yeah.
But you can still drive. You could still drive under as long as they're 16.
Okay, so here's the other part. Our kids have provisional license, and they bring us again, we're the only ones affected. They bring the cushions and the coolers, get to work children and bring us this stuff, not in a vehicle, but
if they're 16, they can.
Exactly.
No, ours aren't. And the last
but
thing
they're
we
not
want,
out there, I don't want them or us getting a misdemeanor.
and being called on the neighbor that doesn't have a golf
Well,
cart.
I will say this, and this is not as this position, but as the sheriff's office. I mean, since something's changing, like we typically, everybody can get a warning. I mean, like I said, so far as I'm just saying that's the typical process. But the main reason being is we get a lot of calls where they damage stuff. You could have a 12-year-old kid drive, and I don't know how old a 12-year-old kid.
Oh, they're
14 and 15.
Yeah, 15 and 16.
Yeah.
And if
I got the same problem.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
I got the same problem.
if our kids damage something, we want to be brought to our attention. We want to make it right.
You're fine. You're fine. You were asking a question, but yeah, like I said, it's mainly for that. And I mean, in anything, and I'll tell you this, at the sheriff's, it's complaint driven. I mean, like, you're not going to have a deputy ride in there. And
oh no, the people in our neighborhood, they will love to call.
They can't wait.
On
They
the golf
can't
cart.
wait to hear this.
They cannot wait.
Because they got it on
y'all.
speed dial. I just ask, having a kid that's 16 and under driving a golf cart and giving them a misdemeanor, it's just a little much.
The difference is, and I'll use Corolla as the example. The law can't be in one district only and not the entire county. Mm-hmm. So in Corolla, we've seen 10, 12-year-olds behind golf carts, driving up and down the road, don't even know what a stop sign is, much less stop at it. So while you all have your situation, sounds like well under control, that's exciting. You're the exception rather than what sometimes is the rule. And so what we're forced to do is to make it blatantly clear not to do things, because until it becomes
But
a
if
criminal.
it was like a violation and not a misdemeanor?
Well, one thing you guys are missing, you're on a public street, no insurance. With an underage driver.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But
So,
the,
I mean, but
It wasn't just the underage
Right.
driver, even like us, because
Right.
we read it, we came tonight because we read it as 35 and under on any public street.
Right.
Which would be our street.
Yeah.
but are also
Minus the fact that my children would not be driving. Like
Right.
here I could get a
Yeah,
misdemeanor.
but you guys are fine. Unless your kids are driving
But that's what
underage.
you don't-
Unless your kids, 16, they have to be, and it's a state,
Right.
it's a general state, it's a state law.
I know that, but what I'm saying is it doesn't read 35 and under on any public road.
In our ordinance, Megan, that we,
I think it reads 35 and under
we were asking
on
for it to be
any
tabled, to be
public road.
clarified better.
Well, we'll discuss it more when we get into it. This is really not the time or place.
I know,
Understood.
okay.
Yeah. So
Well,
thank you for the interaction.
All
Thank you.
right.
No problem.
But thank you, guys. All right. All right. Is there anyone else? All right. Seeing none, I will close the public comment, and we will move on to the next agenda item this evening, which is going to be Commissioner's Report. And I'll start to my left this evening. How about you, Mr. Payment?
Well, the only thing I'll really just mention tonight, because I haven't been here, I mean, most y'all may or may not know, I recently lost my wife. We've been together for 42 years. She was a native here. It's been hard, but the support from the community, the contacts I've had from citizens, Board of Commissioners, staff, friends, relatives, it's been very helpful, and I appreciate all the phone calls and texts and cards. It's helped a lot, but that's why I wasn't here last meeting, because I was going through that, and I wanted to say thanks.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Jarvis?
Thank you. I had the honor of participating in the National Day of Prayer on Thursday that was held at the Judicial Center. It was led by Pastors Mark Goins, Dan Berge, and Adam Taylor from various parts and churches in the county. And I was thrilled to participate in this, and it was well attended. This National Day of Prayer was first proclaimed by Ronald Reagan in 1988 and reaffirmed by Bill Clinton in 1996. And it has really gained steam over the last few years, but then the pandemic hit, and this was the first time we were able to hold it in the Judicial Center since the pandemic. So it was a pleasure to come together as a community and pray for our community, and hopefully the prayers to move this county forward, to bring civility and to love one another will be something that we can all keep on our hearts. I would also like to congratulate former Commissioner Barry Nelms on his upcoming induction to the 2024 North Carolina chapter of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame for his Lifetime Achievement Award. This award is given to those who serve and dedicate more than 20 years of their life developing leadership and citizenship among our youth through the sport of wrestling. So I had the pleasure of teaching with Mr. Nelms at the high school, knowing how many young men at that time he worked with in the wrestling program. So congratulations to him for that honor. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'll be brief this evening. Another thing we have in our consent agenda that I just wanted to call out this evening, we will be approving it in our consent agenda, but it's a proclamation that we have for May as Older Americans Month. And I just wanted to bring that to people's attention. I know my time was fleeting with my grandparents, and I wish I'd had more to learn from them. And that stuff they told me I'd actually heeded before I was 40 years old, that would have gone a lot further. But their importance in our lives, the things that they have seen and touched and learned, can't be understated. And so just want to say thank you to the seniors that are here this evening that showed up to impart their wisdom to us as well and call that out. Mr. Beaumont?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple things this evening. The first of which was I did get a chance to swing through, and the title escapes me, at the Animal Services Building Saturday. They had vendors and it was a lot of folks were out there, so that appeared to be fairly well attended. And then the other thing I have for Currituck County is a specific event that occurred in Corolla, and I just want to let everyone know how our folks help visitors and residents. So specifically, this is recognizing the outstanding performance and self-sacrifice of Matt Gershak in response to a swimmer in distress. And this event occurred on April 20th. Currituck Fire, EMS, and Ocean Rescue were dispatched to a swimmer in distress near milepost 7 on the afternoon of April 20th. Fire EMT Gershak responded as part of the crew on Engine 6. Engine 6 arrived first on scene, established command, and confirmed that there was a swimmer in distress just past the breakers. Command rapidly recognized there was an immediate life safety threat. Firefighter EMT Gershak was already prepared to enter the water with a rescue buoy and his personal fins. With the consent of command, Matt, without hesitation, entered the water, which had a temperature of 55 degrees Fahrenheit. For those that participate in like the polar plunge, that's cold. Rapidly made his way through the 4-foot surf, right? So wavy and cold. To the adult male victim, Matt provided flotation and calm, comforting reassurance to this distressed and exhausted swimmer. And after a brief interaction, firefighter Gershak utilized his strong swimming abilities and excellent physical fitness to safely tow the swimmer to shore, where he received medical evaluation and care. The victim later stated that he had been struggling in the surf for nearly 40 minutes.
Wow.
And was nearing complete exhaustion just before his rescue. Other witnesses confirmed this account. It is my opinion that firefighter Matt Gershak demonstrated exceptional bravery, skill, and professionalism in effecting this rescue. His commitment to physical fitness is without equal. His outstanding performance today likely resulted in the life saved. Job well done. So some of the other information on that was the gentleman's brother tried to come out and effect rescue and gave up because he couldn't get past. The victim had actually gone past the last sandbar and was bobbing in water that he couldn't touch the bottom. And with a 4-foot sea, he came real close to being a statistic. We implemented cross-training with our fire rescue personnel with Ocean Rescue about 3 years ago. And this is not the first time we've participated, but I know one individual that's awfully grateful that in fact we did. So again, kudos to Matt. And he is a fitness nut. So he is always working out, and he's not the only rescue swimmer qualified firefighter we have in Corolla, but it sure came in handy that day. So just a shout out to him, and what an exceptional job. And he typifies who we have serving us in this county, and that's our first responders and our 911 center. Their dedication to our safety is second to none. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
I don't know if this board remembers, but we actually presented an award to Matt Gershak for saving a resident of River's Edge's daughter's life in a traffic wreck. Matt was a state trooper here in Currituck for 7 years. Left law enforcement, and we had him for 1 day at Currituck. He worked 1 day with us, and he just didn't want to be in law enforcement. But he's an awesome guy, family guy, fireman, EMT. Matt's a great, physical fitness, all day long. So, like I said, that doesn't surprise me that he done that because he's done it already before. So, kudos to Matt. He is a great guy. A lot of activities coming up. The torch runs this Wednesday. If you go from the high school to the public safety building, the YMCA complex, the Special Olympics torch run is at 9:30. So if you see lots of blue lights, red lights, and everything, there'll probably be about 20 to 30 people running 3.1 miles from the high school to the public safety building. So if you can avoid Shortcut Road during that time frame, it's for a good cause. Please do so. They run from the high school to the YMCA complex. Last year, I think we had about 40 participants. I was glad I was in a vehicle with blue lights and keeping traffic. I saw Bob Williams as my high school baseball coach. I was afraid maybe I owed some laps from the days back in high school is why he was here. So I was kind of glad he didn't speak for public comment. But no. So the torch run, try to avoid Shortcut Road. It's for a good cause. The sheriff's office, the wildlife, the highway patrol, all agencies participate. Fire and EMS. So if you can avoid Shortcut Road. Last year I was surprised because we were at the back with blue lights and everybody was really compassionate when they, we're going 2 miles an hour, and we were telling people to cut down Barker Road. So like I said, try to avoid that road. There's a lot going on in the county all the time. May 17th, Morris Farms has their big concert. It's not a county thing, but like you said, so that Friday evening might be a good time to kind of miss if you're going south, stay in the fast lane, not the slow lane. Graduation's June 7th. It's just around the corner for high school. There's so many events in May, I can't think of them all. But like I said, I think that's it. But yeah, I thought the crowd, a good crowd tonight. Everybody showed up.
All right.
That's it.
Commissioner Etheridge?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last week, we had a restaurant in Moyock have an event occur where a young child called in and ordered a bunch of pizzas and charged them and sent them to another person's house. And the people did not order the pizzas. So the time of delivery, the time of making them, the restaurant was out that money. So if you have children or grandchildren, please implore upon them, you don't do stuff like that. I mean, that's putting people at risk. It's putting people in a bad place. And, we complain enough about stuff as it is. So just implore that on them. And thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right. Next up, we have the county manager's report. Anything from you this evening, Ms. Rebecca?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to recognize the achievement of 2 members of staff. Our risk management administrator, Victor Lasher, recently received the Public Sector Manager of Environmental Safety and Health Certificate from North Carolina State University. And our extension extension director, Cameron Lowe, recently received the rank of full agent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. How about from the county attorney this evening?
No report tonight.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ma'am, sorry. All right, next up, an item that was mentioned in public comment. We have a building down in Granny, the EMS building, I guess for lack of a better description, that we have a project ordinance in our consent agenda this evening to do some remodeling to that building. And that is on the heels of the sheriff's department vacated that building several years ago, I believe.
2018.
And it's been in disrepair, so there is an aspect of it. It needs some work, and then some other things that are going on. So, county manager this evening would like to have her talk about what it is exactly we're going to do for this money that we're spending on this building this evening, or potentially spending, I guess.
All right. Thank you. So the scope of work for the project includes the remodel of the existing EMS office. It involves the repurposing of 2 rooms into bedrooms, which will allow us to house staff overnight at the facility. There's also renovations to the restroom, which includes making it ADA compliant and adding a shower facility. And there are also some minor break room improvements. There's a ramp on the back of the building that was in disrepair that will be replaced. There's also an alternate bid included in the project, and that was to replace some existing surface-mounted lighting fixtures on the first floor with LED light fixtures.
Okay.
So we received bids for the project on April 25th. We received 2 bids. This is an informal bid. The lowest bid is in the amount of $165,284. So there is a project ordinance and a budget amendment before you this evening in the amount of $195,000. The additional funds are to cover the expense of architectural design and review for the project, basically creating the plans, the construction plans.
Okay. All right. Any questions, comments, concerns from the board? Okay. Well, then we, as this is an agenda item that has to be voted up or down, now's an appropriate time since we're talking about it. So
Mr. Chairman, I recommend that we table this discussion and final vote, and recommend that all the parties that are part of this issue should be brought together so we can have a discussion about the necessity of spending this money.
I'll second it.
All right.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chairman, before we
Yes.
vote? Are you saying we have a work session with the, is that, or
I don't necessarily think it should be a work session because I know there are personnel issues. So a work session would imply to me that would be open to the public with personnel issues. I don't know how that would work. I don't know if we need to meet and, I don't know how that works. But I do know that we need to have a serious discussion with both the men and the women about this issue. Because as you notice, nor Commissioner Kitty Etheridge were called about this. So it's concerning to me as since 50% of the people in this room happen to be women, that we would be left out of a discussion. I think women have to be part of this discussion before we make a decision. So I don't know how that works.
Well, if it's a personnel matter, then we definitely can go into closed session pursuant to general statute.
So I want to be clear about something. You said you left out of the discussion. This board has discussed this several times, the remodel and things of that nature. So you're not talking about us, the Board of Commissioners.
No, I'm
meeting you.
not.
Okay, just want to make sure that you're talking about them, they, those out there.
I'm
right?
talking about how we got to this point.
Right.
How we got to this discussion in the first place. And that needs to be, we need to sit down with all parties, have a frank discussion, clear the air, and decide if we need to spend $390,000.
It's 195.
$195,000. Sorry, I was looking.
Mr. Chairman, I do apologize. I was going to review the budget amendment, and I
Right.
neglected to do that. So on the budget amendment that you have before you, there, while the total is $390,000, the actual expense is $195,000. The reason it looks that way is because we're recognizing the revenue coming in, and then it has to transfer funds. So that's why it appears it's really just an accounting.
$195,000.
As far as the delay goes, Rebecca, does that mess you up contractually with the low bidder in this case, the bid award person?
Well, the bid is not technically awarded until the contract is executed.
Right.
So
Right. I didn't know what their time frame was like. I mean,
I'm not certain.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay.
For answering that.
All right. We'll have a motion and a second. We had some discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Well, that's dealt with. Thank you.
So the project is delayed right now.
What's that?
The project is delayed.
As of now, yep. We will have that discussion very soon. We'll get that on the. All right. So at this time, before we jump into administrative reports, let's take a 5-minute recess, and we will come back in just a couple minutes. All right, thank you, everyone. Get the meeting going again as soon as Kevin gets done politicking back there.
I wasn't definitely not doing that again.
All right. Next up this evening is hopefully a happy subject. We have the YMCA of Southampton Roads here for their annual report. Mr. DJ Kofazi is the Executive Director of the Currituck YMCA. Good evening.
Half my crowd left.
Right.
No, I'm kidding. So thank you all for the time. Let me come up here and make this presentation again. I know this is my third one here since moving to this wonderful area and taking this amazing position at your YMCA. So, I'll go over the basic things real quick that we all love to celebrate. Our membership at the Y is the highest it's ever been, over 1,600 units. We're really the only Y in the Hampton Roads area that can say we've fully recovered from COVID, and that's an amazing thing. We can pay our bills, and that's a good thing. Our usage is the highest. In March, we had 13,000 visits to our Y, which generally we average anywhere between 8 and 10. So 13,000, that's a big jump for us. So, and we have the most successful pickleball program across all the Hampton Roads Y. So that's a good thing we like to hang our hat on. So. But the one thing that I wanted to spend some time talking about today is I just want to debunk some myths about the Y, because I go across the county, I go to various meetings, and I meet a lot of people in the community, and they always call the Y a gym, and I'm like, we have a gym, but we're not a gym. And I just wanted to explain really what the Y is. The Y is a partner. We're a partner in supporting working parents, and to that, in 2023, we gave out $59,000 in direct financial assistance for childcare programming. So we can make sure that parents can go to work and make sure their kids are in a safe place. We're a partner in fighting hunger and poverty. In our after-school programming, we offer financial literacy courses during the half days where the kids are out of school. And then we also gave out 48,000 pounds of food last year in partnership with the Food Bank of the Albemarle, which is great because that's a big issue in this county. Partner in saving lives and offering free community swim lessons. We're getting set to offer another set of swim lessons this summer and then continue throughout the school year. Free to low-income parents in need swim lessons. Drowning is the number one cause of death in children, so we want to make sure that we can combat that. We're a partner in somebody's journey with cancer. We offer a free 12-week program called Live Strong at our Y. We just had a cohort start this week of 5 wonderful people that I get to know over the next 12 weeks. And we're a partner in that, and they get to be strong and get to know other people and revisit their faith and regain their strength while they're in their journey with cancer. And we're partners in molding the next generation of leaders with our free teen membership program that we offer over the summer. That's coming back. Last year we gave out 156. This year we're set to give about 200 away. And we can do all this because of the support of the community, of the businesses, volunteers and civic groups, and of course of the wonderful county leaders, the commissioners here. So I just want to thank all of the businesses that support us, the commissioners, the community as well. And we just want to continue to be partners, and we are not just a gym. At this time, I will take any questions from the commissioners. If not, I will not take any more of your time.
I just wanted to say, Mr. Chairman, the DJ does an awesome job at the Y. Whenever I go by the Y, I actually played pickleball today. I turned 50. So I'm proud to admit it. So I was allowed to play. I played one game of pickleball with my dad, and we got destroyed by like an 83-year-old and probably a 70-year-old. But
we have lessons at the Y, so we can come out.
Yeah, and I was probably the heavy weight on the team. But I walk to the Y every day from the sheriff's office just to get out of the office from the phone. It's about a half a mile back. But every time I go in there, DJ is he's everywhere. I mean, he was on the opioid task force. He's always positive. You just do a lot. So we appreciate you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Good job.
Mr. Chairman, one of the things that DJ and I have talked about, and Kevin just mentioned it, and DJ just mentioned it, is the need for pickleball courts out at the Y Center. Shingle Landing, I went by there the other day to park, and the courts were full, and there was people waiting to play. So it is a growing sport, and that's something we need to look at as we expand our Parks and Rec deal in partnership with the Y and something like that.
And I would be happy to send over to the commissioners and to the county manager as well any of the economic impact reports that having a larger scale pickleball center in a community has, just the tourism and even local use as well.
Yeah, when they had the senior games last week, you had like 60 people there. There were so many for us. My father, 73, invited me to come watch him play in a pickleball game.
Trying to teach you something.
Yeah, he probably was trying to teach me. I did watch, and when I showed up, they were winning, and then they got destroyed. So, but they do have a great facility and good job.
It's the fastest growing sport in the world.
Yep,
It'll be in the Olympics in 2020, I want to say 2028.
There has been a lot of reports about leaks in the Y.
Mhm.
So I don't know if this is our issue or their issue, but can somebody comment as to what the status on that
There
is?
have been roof leaks in that building for 15 plus years on those roofs.
From day one.
Yeah.
Day one is nonstop.
Didn't you say that they had identified the leak source or one of the?
Yes. So there, they have, and our Public Works Director, Leighton Earwood, has been working with DJ to resolve that. So I believe that we have a plan forward now for repairing those leaks, and we'll be
We just
addressing that.
bucket the water and put it in the pool to save the tax dollar.
Right.
Listen, we got to mop the floors, man. We got to do something.
Right.
Look at DJ. Good job.
Sweat off the gym floor, right?
The
Yeah.
second question I have for you
Yes,
is,
sir.
given the light of certain things going on in Currituck, how many people visit the Y that aren't local? Like different counties, different states?
That's a great question. I don't have the exact numbers.
If you just
Sure.
wag it, it would be fun.
Yeah, so we did a partner event with Currituck Kids and Bridge Church for the extravaganza back at the end of March, and we had 700 participants, and I would say about 15% of them came from the Elizabeth City, Camden area. So that would be 100. About
So
100
it's-
people,
would
just
it
to
be
that specific, just at that specific
Got it.
event.
So would it be safe to say that the Y is regularly used by people that don't live in Currituck County?
Absolutely.
Just checking. Thank you.
Absolutely. Happy to answer. Anything else?
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank
Appreciate
you all
it.
so much. We appreciate it. I got to get
Thank
my
you.
son home.
Right.
It's school night, and he's hungry.
All right. There you
Take
go.
care,
Get
y'all.
him home.
Oh, take me too.
Right. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. All right. Next up is the mainland calendar preview. With Rebecca, she's in the spotlight again.
All right. Can you see that on your screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great.
Yep.
All right, so we're excited this evening to give you a preview of the mainland events and business, or mainland events calendar and business directory. This is an idea that you all produced, I believe it was last year, and these are the efforts of that. And we hired a company called ITI Digital to put this site together. So let's see, let me go to the home page here. All right. So this is the landing page for the site. There's really the two most important components of this site are the events calendar and the business directory. So I will we'll highlight those this evening, and as we launch the site, hopefully later this week or next week, we'll be able to post some information about it. So the tab up here is the business directory. So this site sort of aggregates all of the businesses on the mainland, Gibbs Woods, and Knott's Island, and pulls them all together in a format that you are able to search. You can filter by category. So I will select restaurants here so you all can see that. All right. So you can select and you can view restaurants that are available. You can also view on the map. So if you're looking for restaurants in a specific area, you're able to see that as well. Now for both the directory and the events calendar, it's pulling, the site is pulling from Google Places. So that's a way there's a geo fence around the county. So anything within the boundary of that geo fence pulls into the system. So if you're a business that uses Google Places, you don't have to do anything. You're automatically included in the system. If you are not, there is an opportunity for you to submit your place of business, and you can do that from this site here by going over and clicking on Submit Your Place. You can submit it, and then staff will review it, and your information will be included in the system. The benefit of using Google Places as the data point is that any change that's made to a Google Places listing automatically imports into this site. So you're not having to go to multiple places to make that change. So then the second important component here is the events piece. This also this really pulls from Facebook events and from Eventbrite, and there may be one other module that it pulls from. But again, this information is automatically pulled from the sites. I will say before a business or an event is on the public domain, staff does go in and approve it to make sure that it is appropriate. We do have a listing policy that's included on the site that provides some information there. But you know, as it is summer, we'll highlight summer camps, and you can go in and see all the summer camp opportunities that we have coming up here in the county. Again, the same with the business directory. If you do not use Facebook for your events or you don't use Eventbrite, you have the opportunity to go on and submit an event also from this site to post your information. So we are very pleased with the product. Yes, sir.
How easy is it going to be for the average person to go online and find this site?
Sure. So the web address will be mainland.visitcurrituck.com.
So if somebody just Googled Visit Currituck, it would probably come up to that. They can.
It'd be very easy, yes.
Okay,
and we will link to it from the county's webpage as well.
Because one of the big things too is real ease of use and being able to find it was big important.
Are you at a stopping point? Or
Sure. Do you have questions?
Well, not really a question. I just want to make a comment. You know, for those of you who haven't seen this before or heard us talking about this, this came about out of my having been on the Tourism Development Board forever, and then as a commissioner serving on that board. So I served as a citizen first, and then as a commissioner later, the appointee. And we have Corolla covered. We have a tourism department that focuses on Corolla. Some of the businesses here are touch tourism, or most of them do in some way, shape, or form. So they're picked up as well. But we really had Corolla represented, and so this was a way for our community on the mainland to have a singular point to go to find stuff to do, things that are going on, and also help our businesses. So a couple of years ago, we pulled out the economic developer position out of our budget, and we had to do something for economic development. So this is one thing that we looked at doing, was putting this community calendar into place to have a place where you could find any type of product or business that you needed in this county or service that you needed, and highlight those businesses and make it easier to do that. And the big thing is events. If you own a business and you want to have a bake sale, a fundraiser, or anything, you saw all you have to do is add the event to the calendar. We have to approve it, to make sure it's not some crazy event that, isn't family friendly. But anyway, that's what started this, and that's why it's here, is a way for us to give back to the businesses in this community here and make it easier on our residents to find things.
We'll also have partner guides for our business partners as well, to help them walk through that process if they do not currently advertise with Google Places.
Okay.
Have any other questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good job.
All right, good job.
It looks nice. Yeah, it looks nice.
It's already booked.
All right, next up this evening is something everybody spoke about that's still left in the room. PB 23-33 Clooney LLC. The applicant is going to request this item be deferred to a future meeting. And at this time, Clark, stick around. Or not Clark, excuse me. Come on up. Wanted to find out from you exactly what you're asking for as far as, are you gonna, you mentioned in your public comments that, are you gonna do something substantially different than what you were talking about here tonight?
Substantially different in the sense of, we've been asked to revisit ingress egress.
Okay.
As far as, and just to, the 800-pound gorilla in the room, it's a 3.5 acre parcel. It's currently zoned single family. We're looking to put it into general business, literally to build a small office building for myself. It's for me. We own the property, and it's been for sale literally for around 30 years. We bought it from a gentleman named Dodson Matthias. And when we purchased it, it then automatically became a problem for a lot of people. And so, but that's neither here nor there. As far as engineering, we've hired Quibel, so we have a professional engineer in charge of the water. We know that we have to adhere to not only county ordinance, but state and federal ordinance as well, and law, which if we violate anything dealing with wetlands, as you all well know, we're subject automatically to civil, potentially criminal penalties. That's nothing that we're going to get ourselves into. We're not going to do that. We've been advised by council, that we don't want to create any waves, in the community. So what we want to do is, we're just going to take our site plan, revise it a little bit. The idea and the theory will still be the same. Small office building, which will be compatible with, the road around it. At the end of the day, it's on a four-corner, between Tulls Creek and 168, and then North Currituck Road across the street. There's 4 corners there. 3 of them are zoned general business. This one is zoned single family. There's a business being run next door. They have signs out where they, and I feel weird saying it, I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, but they like cuddle goats. I mean, I don't even, it sounds awesome. And, but at the end of the day, it's okay to have a business, to our side, to our other side, and zone general business all around us. So we're going to work with our engineer, we're working with our attorney, and we're going to come back with a good plan. And we would, be very interested and encouraged to ask you all, we'd like to see full support for this project, because what it'll do, it'll send a message, not just to Currituck County, but to everywhere else, that Currituck County is open for business. And we want to encourage investment in business in our community and start creating jobs.
Okay.
Paul O'Neill, Commissioner-elect O'Neill, told me something years ago that I still remember. Kids in Currituck were always taught the 3 R's, reading and writing and the road to Norfolk. Well, zoning business property into general business so we can create business, we can avoid some of that. We can actually start creating more opportunities here, and that's what we're looking to do. So if it's okay with the board, it's not set in the UDO. I believe from planning, I'll defer to planning, but it was not like, there's not like a set time frame on when to do it. Potentially the next few months.
That's my next question for the attorney. Is this matter was a public hearing and it could be substantial change? Where does that land us?
That's not required. That's only for quasi judicial. But I believe that there is a requirement. There's 6 months. It can't go past 6 months.
Would that be tonight? 6 months from tonight?
Yes.
That's fine. We'll be within 6 months.
Okay. So
Yes,
we'll just,
and it's if you don't set a date tonight, then it has to be re-advertised.
Okay.
Since it has already been advertised for tonight.
And that's fine. The cost of re-advertising, I'm not overly concerned. That's fine. No problem.
okay.
Problem doing that.
All right. Very good. Then can I have I guess we need a motion for this to be tabled until,
Yes, until some later time.
until later
Move to
time.
defer it.
Thank you. We have a second? Thank you, Mike. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, next up is PB 2411, Carolina Designs Realty. Request to amend the Unified Development Ordinance, Chapters 4, 5, and 10 to establish a new property management offices and operations. Used to be permitted in general business, village center, light industrial, heavy industrial, plan develop, mixed and planned development and Outer Banks zoning districts with a zoning permit subject to specific standards. Good evening.
Good evening.
Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
How are you?
Board. Good. How are you?
All right.
So just a little bit of background of how we got here. Current ordinance language allows for storage and accessory uses like that, but it limits them to 25% of the building size. We recognize that this type of business, which we have multiple of in this county, and their tourism supporting businesses, that their normal day-to-day operations require some area that's larger than 25% to do what they need to do. For example, they might have linen services where a company washes their linens and drops them off, and then they distribute those to the rental houses. They also have storage areas for things that they might need to replace in each rental home. For example, small appliances, coffee makers, that sort of thing. So the idea here is for the applicant to get the chance to have their day-to-day operations actually meet the ordinance requirements. And so we're here to establish a new use. It is the property management offices and operations use. And I'm going to have to make a comment here. This says commercial use classification. This is supposed to say where it's going in the ordinance and the use table, but it is actually supposed to be in the industrial use classification. So if we get to the point later in the presentation where you're considering a motion, I would ask you to make that change to the industrial use classification in your motion, please. And you can see here on the left-hand side, it is in the industrial services category, a new use called property management offices and operations. It would be allowed in the general business, village center, light and heavy industrial, as well as planned development, mainland and outer banks. And there's a reference here on the side to the specific standards in section 5B6. And here are the proposed specific standards. Number 1, property management offices and operations shall meet all applicable requirements for zoning district in which they are located, including but not limited to non-residential design standards. The office portion of the use, including any break rooms, conference rooms, restrooms, and any offices that may be disconnected from the main office area, shall comprise at least 30% of the combined gross floor area of all buildings. And operations including an in-house laundry facility for cleaning linens shall be considered a laundry plant. In other words, if you're washing your own linens, then you're a laundry facility, similar to what maybe Brindley Beach has here in our industrial park. Again, it's in the industrial services category. And here we are establishing the minimum off-street parking requirements. And we have gone with 1 per 300 square feet of office space. And it says see section 4.2.5B 6B, which is where we just looked at before, where it describes what can be included in this office portion. It's letter B there. So it's basically how to calculate the office portion of it that you would be basing that parking standard on. And then the remainder of the floor area would be at a rate of 1 per 1,000. Here we have added property management offices and operations to the examples of industrial services. So it's just included in the list now in the ordinance. And here is an amendment to Chapter 10 where we establish a definition of the use. Uses primarily engaged in the supervision and administration of rental properties, including but not limited to marketing, reservations, revenue management, guest satisfaction, cleaning and maintenance, and linen services. The request is consistent with the Imagine Currituck 2040 Vision Plan, Land Use Goal 3 to support new and existing commercial developments, and Economic Development Goal 1 to support the retention and expansion of existing businesses and promote the development of new businesses. Staff and the Planning Board recommend approval because the request is consistent with Land Use Goal 3 and Economic Development Goal 1. And I'll leave you with the review standards and answer any questions that you might have.
Questions for Mr. Brewer? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And at this time, I'll invite the applicant up if they'd like to speak this evening. Good evening, how are you?
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. I'm Monica Thibodeau, the president of Carolina Designs Realty. We've been in business since 1988. I've been the managing owner of the company since '91. We've been in Currituck since 2006, and over at this in this vicinity, and just are looking to expand to a property that we purchased a few years ago. Essentially, which is also in this general business district, just mainly for the idea of. What started me for thinking about this was the idea of a better working environment for the folks that are packing linens, and so this is where we've come. The planning staff has been very, very helpful, and the planning board was as well. So I'm available for any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Questions, comments, concerns? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and this is a public hearing. The public is invited to speak at this point, and I have one person signed up, Harriet Currituck.
She's left.
She's left, okay.
She meant to speak for the other one, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anyone in the room that would like to speak to this that did not sign up? Sure. All right. Please come up and state your name and address for the record, please.
Dave Short, 145 Mariners Way, River's Edge. My question here is that when we're talking about this rezoning from swampland to commercial.
That's not what we're talking about here.
Okay, well.
We're on that. Yeah,
We're on to something completely different.
Design.
That's been
And
different.
hear me out for 1 second. How many people in this room came up here and said, "Oh, this is the greatest thing ever"? Nobody. That's my statement.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Now I was looking at this and thinking that pertained to that.
These review standards are part of
Got
yeah,
it.
yep, would be part of it. So, all right, thanks, sir. All right, anyone else this evening? All right, seeing no one else pop up, I will close the public comment portion of the public hearing. And I guess open the floor for a motion on this agenda item. If there's no further discussion from the Board of Commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve PB 24-11 Carolina Designs text amendment in the industrial use classification because the request is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of Imagine Currituck 2040 Vision Plan and the UDO, including Land Use Goal 3 and Economic Development Goal 1.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
And it's included in the industrial use.
She did.
She said that.
She did say that. She got it right. Teacher was paying attention. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. Next up this evening, we have, flip over page here. PB 24-12, Mr. Jay Bender has a request for an amendment to the UDO, Chapter 3, Zoning Districts, Chapter 6, Subdivision and Infrastructure Standards, Chapter 7, Environmental Protection, and Chapter 10, Definitions and Measurement to create a new development type, a preservation subdivision, single-family residential Outer Banks remote zoning district. Good evening, Mr. Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening. So this is a relatively large text amendment before you, but it's actually quite similar to a subdivision type that's already in the ordinance and the predominant type of subdivision in the Ag and SFM zoning district. But this is specifically tailored to the SFR zoning district, so the off-road area of Corolla. Again, as I said, it's similar to the conservation subdivision that we see in Ag and SFM now. But it is specifically tailored to the off-road area of Corolla. The applicant, as well as some of the residents and owners in the 4-wheel drive area, felt like the conservation subdivision just was too specific to preserving farmland, woodlands, and things that weren't necessarily available in the off-road area. So they felt like this would be a better way to allow this type of development option in the off-road area with a consistent density. So the purpose and intent of this is to minimize the development footprint and draw down on natural resources and provide landowners in the SFR zoning district a development type that preserves and restores wildlife habitat, including the Corolla wild banker horse habitat, protects and preserves natural features, and offers flexibility to build on smaller lots when additional preservation area open space set-asides are provided. And so basically it's taking that same density that you currently have with the minimum lot size of 120,000 square foot lots in this area. This particular type of subdivision would only be applicable to projects that are 25 acres at least in size. And it proposes additionally that the 50% of the subdivision area should be set aside as open space in these preservation areas. These are just a couple of maps that just show you from the left to the right, the parcels in the off-road area that are greater than 25 acres or 25 acres or greater. You can see there's a few there, and these are privately owned parcels, so county, state, fed parcels aren't included here. In the middle there are the 15 acres or greater parcels, and then to your right are the parcels that are 10 acres or greater. But actually, I mean, several parcels could be recombined together for this type of subdivision, so it may apply to other areas that aren't indicated here on these maps. This is the dimensional standards table from the ordinance. You can find this in your agenda packet on page 54. And so this is creating this new development type called preservation subdivision and establishing dimensional standards that are associated with it. So you can see that we've taken the existing language and we're calling that traditional development. That's the language that allows you to create 120,000 square foot lots in the SFR zoning district currently. And then we're proposing the new language, which is 0.33 units of density, minimum lot area of 30,000 square feet. Maximum lot coverage is still 30% or 35 for lots. Well, that won't apply here, but it's still 30%. The setbacks and those things are generally the same for this particular type of subdivision. Going through the ordinance and looking at things that apply to these major subdivisions, the applicant did not want to include recreation and park area dedication or the fee in lieu. The reason being that the applicant does not want to encourage park features that could attract more visitors and development to the area, and the intent is to control growth and preserve natural features. And you'll see here in a second that the preservation areas are intended to preserve natural features. One thing I will note is on your agenda package, page 56, this is a brand new section called Preservation Subdivision. Like I said, it mimics the Conservation Subdivision. The numbering was somehow renumbered when the minutes for the planning board were inserted into the staff report. It's the ordinance that we use, the UDO, the formatting is just kind of difficult to work with, and it appears that got changed before it was uploaded to your packet. So this is going to be a brand new section called numbered 6.7. So those will be the numbers, and like Jason asked, we'll ask you to add that to your motion if you choose to move to approve this one. So just like the conservation subdivision that requires a preliminary plan that shows your preservation areas and proposed development areas, staff will do a site visit with the applicant and take a look at the property. These are the features that have been identified as features that should be preserved primarily, which include the Camel wetlands and Army Corps wetlands, riparian buffers, maritime forest, areas within the root zone of significant trees, habitat used by endangered or threatened species or designated natural heritage areas. And this part G is part of the Northern Currituck Wildlife Habitat Preservation Corridor. This is something that I believe that the Wild Horse Advisory Board, at least the fund is working on to present to the Wild Horse Advisory Board. This particular corridor map has not been updated yet, but this is where they're trying to target parcels for land acquisition, just parcels that could be preserved. I know this board also in your work session, I believe in October, talked about doing things to try to preserve some parcels in the off-road area. So this is consistent with that. But again, that map has not been adopted at this time, but it's being worked on. The primary preservation areas, half of the required open space has to be primary preservation areas. It has to have a permanent conservation easement placed over it, and it limits the allowable uses to wildlife habitat and safe passage. So really no use, just wild, untouched. The secondary preservation areas are defined here that include historic, archaeological, and cultural resources, existing and mature woodland forests, natural fields and meadows, scenic corridors and views, and areas that serve to extend that northern Currituck wildlife habitat preservation corridor, and special flood hazard areas designated on firm maps. The allowable uses in this particular section of the open space set aside are wildlife habitat, stormwater management, drainage, minor utility easements, and mitigation of development activities and active or passive recreational uses that are currently defined in the ordinance. This is the provision from the ordinance related to streets. Streets in the off-road area have specific standards because they're not generally improved. There's currently language that requires any subdivisions within the alignment of the Ocean Pearl Road to set aside a 100-foot right-of-way. The applicant is proposing that this minimum right-of-way requirement for these types of subdivisions would be 60 feet. Again, trying to control the area that's impacted with development. We have also provided some definitions for some of the new terms in the ordinance so we all understand what they mean. So there's a definition for the corral wild banker horses. Again, the preservation corridor that I spoke of earlier, which is defined as a north to south corridor of property located in the SFR district targeted for natural features and wildlife habitat, including corral wild banker horse habitat. And a map of the corridor is adopted by the county's Wild Horse Advisory Board. That's there. It has not been adopted yet, but when it is, it will be used to try to target the areas for preservation in these subdivisions. We're naming a new type of open space set aside as a preservation area, but it is a type of open space set aside. So we're defining that there. We're defining a preservation subdivision. The term rewild is used in the language for, which basically means leaving land in its predominantly natural state. And then since the Wild Horse Advisory Board is referenced, we also provided a definition for that board. Any questions on the language before I get into land use plan consistency?
I just will ask this. Can you just explain how reducing the right-of-way from 60 to 100 feet, how does that reduce the impacted area? Does that mean people can't drive on it as much?
Right, so it goes from a 100-foot right-of-way to 60, which means that you could have more open space on the fringes of the subdivision as opposed to in the right-of-way itself.
So these would be new roads? New roads cut.
It would be new portions of Ocean Pearl, correct.
All right. Okay.
And this is basically the southern terminus of Ocean Pearl where it kind of just dies right there. And
that's generally, that's the main area.
Yeah, Ocean Pearl's, I think, one of the only roads that's 100 feet. That's the main thoroughfare. I believe it's the only one that's 100 feet from one end to the other. The rest of them.
Yeah, there's definitely some gaps in how it's platted and areas where it doesn't line up exactly.
Okay.
Here's some land use plan policies that are related to this request. The transect policies for the off-road area include 01 preserved lands and 02 reserved lands. To explore the feasibility of public-private partnerships with landowners and conservation agencies to acquire lots in the off-road area for conservation, open space preservation, and stormwater and public safety needs. We can see it's consistent with the 02 reserve land policies of 1 dwelling unit per 3 acres. There's general policies of the off-road area, maintaining the area's unique identity by valuing and protecting natural resources, open space, wildlife habitat, and biodiversity. And then prioritizing preservation of open space near marshes and special flood hazard areas to allow for inland retreat of coastal marshes. There's land use goal 1 that you see a lot about encouraging development to occur at densities appropriate for their location. And then land use goal 2 to consider the design and location of intensive and potentially incompatible land uses, such as environmental quality. And planning board and the staff do recommend approval because the request is in conformance with the general purpose and intent of the UDO and is consistent with the goals of the Imagine Currituck 2040 Vision Plan, including land use goal 1, 2, and the off-road area policies 1.1, 3.1, and 3.6. And I can leave you again with the text amendment review standards that you're very familiar with.
Okay. Thank you. Any more comments, concerns? Sir? All right, thank you. I see Mr. Bender hanging out this evening. You want to come up and speak to us for a minute, Jay? All right. How you doing this evening?
I'm great. Good evening. I'm Jay Bender, resident of Corolla. I've been up there, grew up there, and been in the tour business up there for 33 years now. And I've worked alongside with the Corolla Wild Horse Fund all these years as well, trying to help them. And this particular text amendment, I feel, is one of the an important last stage in as the remaining area gets developed. This gives us an opportunity to offer a strategy for some of these remaining land owners to participate in what I think is could be almost like a legacy, if you would. This gives us a way to kind of bridge these properties together and still allow them to be able to do something with their land to still use it for a house. Otherwise, you end up with too much infrastructure and with the larger 120,000 square foot parcels. I did this years ago in a similar area where the park is, and we reduced the size of those in order to create another area that was an open space. And I just think it was overlooked in the not the RO2 district anymore. But anyway, I'm open for any questions, but I greatly appreciate your consideration for this.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Jay?
I do. I guess one concern I have is the way it currently is with 120,000 square foot lots, and this reducing it down considerably to 30,000. Does that not generate more houses and there more traffic?
It doesn't change the density, because the multiplier of 0.33 still affects. In other words, you don't change the density at all. You just simply make a smaller piece of property that a home can sit on, and the remaining land area gets to be land banked or put in a conservation area. It doesn't change the amount of houses or the amount of people. It makes the footprint smaller.
Okay. So there's no increase in the number of houses?
No, ma'am. That's we wanted to stay in our lane with keeping the land use plan and the development ordinance. Exactly. We're not encouraging development. We're encouraging conservation.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anything else from the board? All right. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Coming out this evening. All right. This is a public hearing, and the public is invited to speak. So I'll open public comment, and I do not have anyone signed up this evening. Is there anyone that would like to speak to this? Did not sign up. All right. Seeing no one, I will close the public comment.
May I really quickly say one more thing? Sorry.
Of course.
There's one other section here where there was just some minor wordsmithing I wanted to call out to you before you go to make your motion. Maybe. Here it is. Here. In this primary preservation areas, there was a can you, trying to use this fancy screen, but I don't know if it's working that great, but.
It's working way better on your side.
In your staff report, there's an "and" here, and I've moved that down to where it makes more sense. So if that could be part of your motion, if you do choose to approve. And I've in your motion sheets, there's a statement regarding staff changes that were mentioned this evening. But I just wanted to call that to your attention.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, any further discussion from the board? Well, since this is my neck of the woods, I'll make a motion this evening and move to approve PB 24-12 Bender SFR Preservation Subdivision Text Amendment with the edits presented by the staff tonight, and which Jenny just mentioned, Section A, moving the and creating Section 6.7 Preservation Subdivision. Because the request is in conformance with the general purpose and intent of the Unified Development Ordinance and is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Imagine Currituck 2040 Vision Plan, including Land Use Goal 1 and 2 and Off-Road Area Policies 1.1, 3.1, and 3.6. Second.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any further discussion from the board? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you all. All right, next up, North-South Development has a request to amend the Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 3, Zoning Districts to modify overall maximum gross density in the conditional mixed residential zoning district. Does anybody need a break before we jump into this?
I would love a break.
Okay, we're gonna take 5, Jenny. Been at it for a while. Let's jump back into it, and as I said before, we were getting into PB 24-13 North-South Development LLC's request this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This request does relate to the mixed residential district. The district is established to accommodate a wide variety of residential use types at moderate densities, as well as some low-intensity neighborhood-serving commercial. So the request, here's the dimensional standards chart from the MXR zoning district chapter of the ordinance that has the dimensional standards for MXR. And you can see that there are 3 different use types or development types there listed at the top of the table. Residential single-family detached, and there's multifamily, which includes cottage development or other types of multifamily, and then there's non-residential. And this particular text amendment focuses on the very first line of this chart, which is the max gross density for the full service area. And you can see there's proposed a new footnote number 8. I'm just going to zoom in here a little bit for you. And so this particular request is going to take that first line, the full service area, and have a maximum gross density overall of 3 dwelling units per acre based on the total land area. So instead of looking at your single-family residential portion, multifamily and non-residential, and the different densities here, if you had multifamily and single-family detached dwellings in the same project, the density calculation would be done on the total land area. So it would be 3 across the board. And this is done only through conditional rezoning. So any multifamily in MXR has to be conditionally rezoned. And this particular request does, like I say, include the need to have multifamily as well as single-family dwellings as part of the project. Before I move on to land use plan and ordinance compatibility, any questions on what we're doing here? What the request is?
So just to clarify your last statement, you said that to be part of this zoning, they would have to have both single-family detached and multifamily.
Correct. That's what the applicant proposed.
Okay.
So you'd have to have both types of dwellings in order to take the density calculation off the whole tract. And another thing to note here is that there's this statement that says, based on the total land area of the CMXR tract in accordance with section 10.3.5. That's the section related to density and how you calculate max density, which does not include wetlands. So wetlands, again, here aren't included in any density calculation for the MXR. The text amendment is consistent with Land Use Goal 1 to encourage development to occur at densities appropriate for their location. Another thing that I don't know if I really hit on that much was that these developments have to have centralized wastewater and county water. So development to occur at densities appropriate for their location and consider factors including but not limited to environmentally suitable soils, suitable areas, adequate infrastructure, the type and capacity of sewage treatment available, adequacy of transportation facilities, and compatibility and proximity of the site to existing and planned county services. One reason this is consistent is that it will be reviewed through the conditional rezoning. So the applicant and board can mutually agree on conditions that will mitigate any impacts of the development and have the quality that is desired. Here's some action policies of the implementation matrix of the land use plan. You can see there's one for the overall county, which is to update the ordinance to provide incentives for development of a variety of workforce housing for mixed incomes. There's a northern mainland action to incentivize medium density transitional subdivisions that establish interconnected walkable neighborhoods that link parks and open space in the transitional areas of residential development near Moyock and Currituck. Northern mainland action 20, incentivize development of multi-generational and senior housing. Northern mainland action 21, require large-scale residential development to include a supporting commercial component or an interconnection to existing adjacent business. Lower Currituck action 9, promote mixed-use development that includes family entertainment and tourism supporting businesses south of the water park in Lower Currituck. Lower Currituck action 10, promote the development of a mixed-use village in Grandy with higher residential density and 2- and 3-story buildings constructed to architectural design standards. And Lower Currituck action 11, encourage and consider incentives for development of a variety of housing. Staff does recommend approval and suggests that these statements are true about the text amendment, that it's consistent with the purpose and intent of the MXR zoning district, that it does not conflict with the ordinance or code of ordinances. It's consistent with the purpose and intent of zoning districts and would ensure efficient development within the county. Will result in a logical and orderly development pattern because the maximum density may be achieved where existing wastewater and county water services are available. And it implements actions of the Imagine Currituck 2040 Vision Plan related to incentivizing development of a variety of housing with a supporting commercial component. And the planning board and staff recommend approval subject to this consistency statement that is also in your agenda packet. And I would be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Questions from Jay? All right. Thank you, Jay. I feel like we just saw you 2 weeks ago. How you doing, Sidney?
I'm doing well, thanks.
All right. It has been 3 weeks.
It just felt
Mark,
like
you're just,
two.
yeah, it just felt like 2. Yeah.
Time flies.
That's right. I don't have a great deal to add. I think staff done an excellent job of presenting this and covered all the bases. And I just kind of want to highlight that this does help provide help to serve an underserved housing type, which is the workforce housing. And it also, as she indicated, incentivizes the development of multi-generational and senior housing. Right now you kind of disincentivize to have non-residential because you lose a unit of density for each acre of non-residential. that you have in your MXR development where this would solve that problem. There was one issue that we discussed briefly at the planning board, which is whether the single-family detached housing would include the ability to do duplex housing along with your multifamily. And it was discussed that night that it probably would, but in further discussions with staff, it would not. So we just wanted to throw out whether we should remove the word detached from single-family and multifamily housing
So
to
would
allow
the-
that duplex option.
So would the duplex option be allowed as part of the multifamily component?
No, because multifamily is defined as 3 or more units, 3 or more
So
attached
then they wouldn't be
units.
allowed at all?
That's an excellent question. I'm gonna,
Yeah, it's an odd. It doesn't really fit into either of the 3 categories that you saw because it's specifically single-family detached dwellings, and duplexes are single-family dwellings that are attached.
Right.
And multifamily is defined. A multifamily building is defined as 3 units or more, but it's really multifamily development. Even though a duplex, like if it was combined with other multifamily buildings, it really would be like multifamily development as a whole.
Can we fix that maybe in our definition or terms? Like to say that multifamily is 3 or more, or a duplex shall be considered multifamily.
Or you could delete the detached from the MXR and just have single-family dwellings, and duplexes would be allowed.
Why couldn't we add duplexes in addition to detached?
Well, you could do that too.
I mean, it gives you 3 different options, basically, right? You can have multifamily, duplexes, and detached.
In the multifamily, I was asking Owen, the multifamily in the project behind Food Line, wasn't that some duplexes?
Which project behind Food
I
Line?
don't remember the name of it.
Kent Friedman project.
Yeah, the
Even with
one,
those long parcels of land right there.
The Moyoc yeah, I'm not sure.
I thought there was some duplex. I mean, that was 10 years. But for some reason, I thought that had duplex in it.
I don't think
that
so.
plan had
No,
all
that was
all
single family.
detached.
Yeah. So if we adding the ability to have duplex in there from a legal standpoint, is that doable tonight? As a portion of this? Does that make sense?
Where
from a
would you
plan-
add it?
Or you could just strike the term detached. makes
Well,
it
it seems like
single-family.
detached was was that important to you
Well,
guys?
it's consistent with. Let's scroll back.
Yeah, you don't want to open up a can
Well,
of worms.
for one, it's a matter of it's a different type of development, and is that something that the board wants to see? Is these projects that have multiple types of dwellings? But you can see here in the chart, the reason that it says detached here in the footnote is because the chart itself says residential single-family detached.
I mean, to me, I think that adding duplex just muddies the waters.
Mm-hmm.
You got 2 neighbors beside each other who hate each other anyway, then you put a duplex there even closer. That's just my 2
I
cents.
just think it muddies the waters.
Right. Yep, it hadn't been vetted, so. We don't have hardly, do we even have duplexes?
There's a
in there?
couple duplexes in Grandy. There's a couple duplexes in Scarborough. I'm just thinking from working patrol with the sheriff's office. There's a few. There's probably less than 2 dozen in the whole county that I can think of.
Is that a particular product that is really desirous now? Mark, are you seeing that?
I'm seeing it become more popular.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I could see it like in a 55 plus, seeing them in Richmond.
Duplexes being
Yeah.
popular?
Yeah, they were.
Jarvis Landing's duplexes.
Yeah.
Or townhome duplexes, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Forgot about that one.
Kevin didn't know. Okay.
Is there I'm just curious, while I'm thinking about it, is there a minimum acreage for this type of development as to?
There is.
Okay, I just don't see it on the chart, or maybe I'm missing it on the chart. I've got both charts up
It's-
and don't see it.
I don't think it's on the chart. I think it's in the language.
Okay.
It might just be for cottage development. Let's see.
Applied to subdivisions on lots 10 acres in area and greater.
10 acres?
Footnote number 4.
It's 10 acres for cottage development,
Oh,
but,
that's for
but no, that there actually isn't a minimum development size, only for the cottage development.
So if it's I don't know, let me just go small. If it's a 5-acre tract, what's the division of, is there a percentage of single-family detached versus multifamily?
There's not a percentage. That's something that.
So it could be all multifamily.
Right. That's something the board may want to consider. That's correct. Yeah. Well, it would need to at least be one single-family detached dwelling, the way that it's written
Yeah,
currently.
it has to include a mix of multifamily dwelling and single family.
But there's not a breakdown like it has to be 50% this and 50% that. It's just at least one of each.
Right.
Then you're governed by the maximum density.
Right.
Overall.
Well, I would say if the board, that when we get to that point, is comfortable with what's here, I would not change anything this evening. This has been thought about. It's been through planning staff. It's been through the planning board and has gotten to us. Rather than trying to pull it apart or change it, we either need to table it and change it like we did with the stuff with turning over the roads and the HOA, or leave it alone as is. And if the need arises, a text amendment can be suggested to fix the duplex issue.
Right.
All right. More questions for Mr. Bissell? All right.
I'd be
Mark?
inclined to request that you not change it then.
Okay, all right. We'll just leave it alone. All right. This is a public hearing. I do not have anyone signed up this evening for the public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak this evening on this? Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Connie Hedrick with 296 Summit Farms Trail. 30 seconds. I was just listening to this discussion, and I want to thank Councilman Jarvis for bringing it up. I raised my family in what we called a single-family twin home. So workforce development and affordable housing for young adults, young professionals, to keep them in the area is a really big deal with lack of inventory that we had. My little single family attached at the garage, so my house was in the front with a driveway with an attached firewall, and then the second unit was a single family attached that went to the reversed with their own driveway. The only place that we met was at the firewall between the two places. So it was in Chesapeake. I paid $132,000 for my little house and raised 4 children in there as a single mom. So there are a lot of demographics in here when you're talking 3 units with multifamily with 1 unit. So what I heard is that we can have a maximum density of 3 units per area to match the density. So we did not say how many of those 3+ units are going to be. Are we going to have apartments that are going to be 12 units, 12 family units? Are we going to have, what is that piece looking at? So if you had a rendering of what that community might look like, I would suggest instead of it being a duplex, so to speak, it would be an attached to single-family homes. And they're not known, they're called twin homes. Above twin homes is what they're called. They have a garage, usually 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. I had a laundry hall closet. My laundry was in the hallway, but that could be remedied. But we all had a yard, and we had green space, open green space in the common area. And it was part of a minimal HOA for green space, pools, basketball courts, those type of things in our particular area. So if you're going to look at that type of housing for our up-and-comings and our generational downsizing, I suggest that might be an option for you guys to take a look at. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else this evening?
It's a family thing.
It's a family affair, right? Right.
Steve Hedrick, 296 Summit Farms. Greetings, friends. Yeah, to kind of pair up my wife a little bit. Matter of fact, they're building these attached homes down in Elizabeth City off of River Road next to Heron's Ridge. Okay, they're building basically, like she said, it's garage, house, cinder block wall in the middle. So they're not a duplex where your 2 front doors are right here. So you do have some space. So you might be something to look at. Mm-hmm. And when you're discussing terminology, I guess, so to speak, or what kind of style home you want to look for, it's off a river right next to the elementary school down there. Or, it's either elementary or middle school down on River Road in Elizabeth City. That they're building. I was just down there about 2 weeks ago. So it might be something to look into just for a rendering of sorts. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, anybody else this evening? All right, seeing no one else, so we'll close public comment. Any further discussion from the board on this agenda item? Questions, comments, or concerns?
So if we approve this, it's possible we could do an amendment to it later to add the definitions of these other types of houses to it, right?
I guess you would have, that would probably be more of a, we'd have to amend it further to allow for a housing type in there, right? Right now it's single family home and multifamily, and we haven't defined duplex as multifamily necessarily.
Right.
Or the term twin home.
So would that be just simply updating to call it duplex a multifamily product? Or, I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot tonight.
Yeah,
I mean, kick it around for a minute.
It is.
It is, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a single-family product. I mean, the ordinance defines it as a single-family dwelling attached to another single-family dwelling. That's, it just,
Okay.
it's not detached, which
Right.
is where the issue is.
Right.
But if you wanted to see some language that included duplexes in the table, as well as in the footnote for this particular application, we could look at that.
What about you know me, what about a triplex? The point,
That's multifamily.
well, that's what I would suggest, that I think it's already defined as a multifamily by the nature of the
Triplexes.
product.
I guess what's different is that multifamily has design standards, single family does not.
So are we suggesting that a duplex would have single-family design standards?
You could potentially, through a conditional rezoning, apply design standards to the buildings that are being proposed.
To all multifamily?
So through conditional zoning, you can apply design standards to any buildings,
Anything that
including
comes in.
single-family dwellings.
And
Which
this
is
all
It
conditional.
is technically multifamily, the duplex.
But not according to our definitions.
Because it's not
Right.
detached. It is attached.
What about the twin homes, like she said? That
Well,
would be
so
detached.
That's
they're
attached as
attached
well.
too. They have a common wall.
That's single.
Still a common
attached.
wall somewhere on the building, so.
So
Getting late.
to get to this designation, this CMXR, it's a conditional rezoning.
Correct.
And with the conditions,
We can stipulate, make some stipulations.
duplexes couldn't be stipulated, or attached single-family homes could not be stipulated, right? Because it's not allowed by the ordinance.
Yeah, it's unclear.
What if we take the word detached out? I mean, I think that's what Mark was saying basically, right? Multifamily dwellings and single-family dwellings.
Right.
Take detached out, I think.
We just take detached out of both
Right, just cleans
areas.
it, makes, yeah.
Then you still, right, so then your lot area for a duplex would be 30,000 square feet versus the 15,000 that's in your table.
Right.
I mean, that's an option, I believe.
And Mark was okay with removing the detached.
Right. No, that's what you said. That's what you
That's
said,
what
right,
you
Mark?
made- that's
Just
your
take detached
recommendation,
out.
right?
Ultimately, we're right back to what you started with. Thanks, Mark.
So the chart would say.
Just took us a little longer.
The chart would say residential single family, and the minimum lot area dwelling unit would be 30,000, right?
Well, that's because it's saying it's per dwelling unit. The minimum
So it's
lot area
15.
per dwelling unit. So for one dwelling unit, it's 15,000. For two, it would be 30,000.
So that would muddy that too then, because if they were detached, it would be 15,000, but if they were attached, it would be 30.
Right, but if they're attached, it's 2 units. So the land area is the same.
Okay. I get it.
I don't want that motion.
You don't want that motion?
No.
Okay. Well, we won't call on you for that now. Okay.
Good.
You're good. Okay. All right. Well, I think we've beat this around enough. It sounds like we have figured out that removing the word detached is probably the easiest way to progress with this and create a range of products available for conditional MXR developments. Well, single family, duplexes, and multifamily. With that, is there any further discussion? Good. Kevin, you wanted to make that motion, right?
I'm good, I'll pass it on.
All right, would somebody like to make a motion on this agenda item this evening?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move to approve PB 24-13 North-South Development Group Text Amendment because the request is in conformance with the general purpose and intent of the Unified Development Ordinance and is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Imagine Currituck 2040 Vision Plan, including land use goal 1, the G2, G3, and G4 transects, and implementation actions identified in the matrix, including CC Action 16, NM Action 13, MN Action 20, LC Action 9, LC Action 10, and LC Action 11, and to remove the word detached.
Thank you, sir. All right, do we have a second? I'll second it. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
All right, the ayes have it. All right, next up this evening, we're on to new business. An ordinance to amend and provide for criminal penalty for those malicious golf carts.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So these ordinances were before you during the work session we had last week. The first one, I think, is the golf cart one. And so all three of these, which we'll do them separately, but all three of them are adding a criminal penalty provision. So as you all know, we've discussed Senate Bill 300 requires that in the event you want to add a criminal penalty provision, it has to be within the section of the ordinance that you want it to apply to. Also, with certain ordinances like this one, kind of a moving violation, we don't want to run into any kind of illegal stops with law enforcement because law enforcement is ultimately the ones who are enforcing these ordinances. So this just gives them the option for it to be a criminal penalty, but there's also still a civil penalty if they want to go that route. So in looking at the first one, we're adding a section 12-70, which is all we're adding is that criminal penalty provision in addition to the civil violation. I know there was some individuals that came up during public comment that were asking some questions about this. What you see in the agenda packet looks funny because it just has that additional violation. But when you look at the ordinance as a whole, Commissioner McCord was correct. You're allowed to operate a golf cart on public streets, roads, highways, public vehicular areas where the speed limit is 35 miles per hour or less. So I don't know if that answers any of those questions. Now, this is only the first reading of this ordinance. It cannot be adopted tonight. I mean, you can move to approve it, but it cannot be adopted because of Senate Bill 300. And also, we don't have unanimous since Commissioner Etheridge is not here tonight.
So the comments made in public comment were that you still have to be 16.
Absolutely.
Now, is it a licensed driver or a 16-year-old?
16.
16.
You have to be 16.
You don't have to be licensed.
Okay.
Is that a state rule or is that?
Yes, that's a general statute.
Okay.
That's how it is.
So if you're 16 or older, licensed or not, you can drive.
Yes.
All right.
Yes,
35
as
and
long
under.
as it's
35
and under. So I think in that community that was mentioned, it's 25.
So they're fine.
I think you said that.
25.
Yeah, so.
Okay. All right. Any more questions for the attorney? Nope. Can I have a motion, please?
Move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Next up, an ordinance amending to provide for civil and criminal penalties for parking. Golf carts.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This, again, adding a criminal penalty for parking, let's see, any unlawful parking, overnight 24-hour parking, when a facility is full. So far, that, again, only had a civil violation, and this adds that criminal penalty.
Same thing like she said before with Senate Bill 300. You couldn't, if a vehicle's parked somewhere, you couldn't ask somebody for their identification. It would be a form of a possible legal seizure without
Correct.
the criminal penalty on there.
But this takes care of that now.
It does, yeah. So then there's no question whether it's an illegal stop or not.
Okay.
So let me ask you, by definition, is a trailer a vehicle? And the reason I'm asking that,
You run it.
there has been more trailers left in our public beach accesses. You know, whoever's
That's a you.
haul the trailer, they park it in the public parking, and because there's no room at the house.
Or crawl, I won't let them.
Technically, yes,
Right.
because to my knowledge, yes, because like if you run a trailer, if you want to run a vehicle, and even though it's not a motorized
It's got-
vehicle,
it's got
if
a
you run a
damn-
trailer, you
tag.
have to run it as a vehicle, even though it doesn't have a.
Well, it's got a tag.
Got a
It's got
tag
a
in the back.
tag.
Have a
Yeah,
tag.
you
I was
insured
looking
and
to see
everything.
if we had a definition. I don't see one
I'm
offhand.
not 100% sure, but I'm.
In our ordinances.
We don't say motor vehicle.
Should we?
And there may be a general statute
But it
definition. I
says
have to look
vehicle
at that.
trailer.
Yeah.
Could somebody
under-
challenge that?
Under unlawful parking, no person shall leave or cause to be left any vehicle, trailer, or other obstruction.
Okay.
So it got covered.
Oh.
So Megan covered it.
It's right in there.
Not even
Yep,
knowing it,
That's
you
right.
covered
Right in there.
It's already
Yeah,
in there.
you
She was like, "Good catch, Commissioner Beaumont."
Yep.
All right.
And so the
Good
next
catch.
thing is we need to, when we can, start enforcing that too.
Well, it was because of Senate Bill 300 is why we're here with
Yep,
all this. I
I
mean,
get it.
like I said, but now.
Now we get chased to him. All right. Any further questions about this one?
Motion for approval.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Next up, an ordinance to provide for a criminal penalty user permit for the user permit.
So again, this is adding a criminal penalty provision for the user permit for the parking permits that are required on the beach.
All right.
Right now, there is no criminal penalty
I get it,
provision,
Because
and
there's
that's
no
the main
criminal
one.
penalty.
I
Because of
think.
Senate Bill 300, you could
Yes.
just slap a ticket on their windshield, tell them they have to leave, but you couldn't physically make them leave.
All right. Any questions, comments, concerns? Well, I'll move for approval on that one.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, next up, board appointments. Commissioner Jarvis. Oh, we have to reappoint you to the College of the Albemarle.
Make a
Board of
motion.
Trustees.
Move for reappointment.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, wait a minute. We'll give it to Owen. He was quick on the draw on the primary.
Thank
There
you.
you go.
Second, Mike, and all in favor?
Aye.
I'm not gonna ask if there's anybody opposed. Next up is our consent agenda. Any questions, comments about anything in the consent agenda?
Move for approval.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. All right, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved. Second.
You, all in favor?
Aye.
And I will open a special meeting of the Tourism Development Authority. We have some Tourism Development Authority budget amendments this evening and event grants. And let's see here. That's a pretty innocuous budget amendment, right? All right, well, I'll move to approve the first budget amendment in the packet.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Does anyone have any questions about the TDA grants?
Same thing as we've done before, correct?
Yep. Okay.
And Ms. Kugler is here if you all have any questions.
Cameron's still hiding? Oh, there she is. You were in the back a
she's
little
back
while
here.
ago. She was in the
She
front.
moved up to the front.
Okay. Any questions for Cameron this evening? All right.
Nope.
Can I have a motion to approve then?
So moved.
Thank you. I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn the TDA, please?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And we have we'll now move into a special meeting of the Ocean Sands Water and Sewer District Board. We had budget amendment in there as well. Now we'll move to approve that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, can I have a motion to adjourn
So
Ocean
moved.
Sands? I have a motion from Mike.
Second.
Second from Kevin. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.